Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of Weapon Refine Theorycrafting. No, I did not forget that this series existed again. It's more so the fact I just don't really have the time to work on new videos. This time was a bit different, however, considering Monday I had my formative in welding, which I passed at 80%, so because I'm so much in advance on my class, I ended up having 2 days off. In fact, well, basically off a day and then the other day. So I was able to work on this video, and Wednesday today was also off because I ended up passing the formative in electric circuit verification at 100%, so there's no point in going back on a formative if you've already, basically perfected it. And formatives are typically harder than the exam itself. So yeah, I guess I did well. So because of this, they just said you can just stay home for these days, it's fine. So I decided to work on this. Another thing is show me your build. Because I moved my stream schedule off a day, I kind of forgot to do show me your build. And because of this, I'm going to be doing show me your build either not this Saturday, but the next Saturday. I know it's a bit different than usual, but I kind of have to use the upcoming Saturday to work on the new content that we now have, which is like the new refined tier list, the new GHB tier list, which honestly, the GHB tier list will take like 2 seconds to explain because Cormag is just a worse vaulter. Then there's the banner review itself, which is like 5 characters, which is going to take a while in itself. So yeah, I won't be able to do it this Saturday, but the next Saturday I think won't have any big updates, so I'll be able to work on it then. Again, I'm a bit sorry about this. It was my fault. I should have done that the first Saturday of this month instead of the first Sunday, because Sundays are now the day I stream on, so I can rest a bit more on Saturdays. Anyway, enough about my own life. Let's talk about this banner. Now, I can already tell for a few people, why is Leif here? Because I've technically already done a refine for him, but the refine was mostly based off of Sothe. I gave him a sacred light brand and not a light brand. And because it was just a different version of the light brand, I allowed Leif to also be able to get it. This is a refine of the light brand itself, which is more like made for Leif. Similar to the other way the light brand worked before, I made it a adaptability damage, except not based on attack at all. And I made the refine itself based on attack res. If you're curious about what the icon is, this is the Balder icon mixed with the Neuron icon. I wanted to do something a bit more unique than just brace an attack res icon, so, Now, one of the reasons I wanted to go this way is because it's quite obvious Lightbrand is based off of literally adaptability damage. You do full damage against def unit, right? Against, res tanks, because there's no point in attacking the res. However, if they have more def than res, well, you're moving to res by getting this 7 extra damage. However, I wanted to have an effect that's a bit more potent, because a lot of the time, mixed tanks are kind of rare, and there's way more than only 7 points of difference between the def and res. As a matter of fact, a lot of units, especially armored units, god damn armored units, tend to have a gap between their def and res of like 10 or more. So this is a bit more versatile as a result. So I decided to just give it adaptability damage. Another reason why I decided to make a refine for Leif is also the fact that he might very well get a refine next month, for all we know. Kana is a Book 2 Gen 2 unit that came out like, I think, a month before Leif. There's no reason why Leif shouldn't be able to get a refine. As a matter of fact, he really needs one. Like, let's put it in perspective, right? He has 32 attack and 38 speed. Ira has 33, 37. 30 def, 23 res. Oh, Ira has 31 and I think 21 res. 43 HP. Well, Ira has 41. Not much of a difference, is there? Except, here's the big difference. Oh, and I think I forgot to add the 3 def from Lightbrand in this, so it's supposed to be 33 def. I forgot to add the grants def plus 3 to the refine effect. My bad on that. But even with the def plus 3, at the end of the day, Ira basically has the same stat line. However, you ditch Ira's weapon because Ira's blade is terrible, that's just how it is, and you run Slaying Edge. And, well, as a matter of fact, Slaying Edge is so good with Ragnalastra, it completely makes Leif irrelevant, despite the fact that Leif came out like 2, 3, 4 months after Ira. It's kind of ridiculous. But it is what it is, which is why I kind of hope that it's more something akin to what this is. Now, the reason why I wanted him to have raise and attack res is because his res and attack are his 2 weak points. His speed is plenty. Honestly, you don't even need speed plus, especially at plus 10. You, like, with flowers, you're at 44 speed on merge. 43 if you don't want to, like, spend the whole points, the whole amount of flowers. But, like, even then, right? 43 speed for 5 flowers, which costs borderline nothing, with a buff pushing that to 49. You don't need speed buff, or rather, you don't need speed plus, so you typically go with attack plus. And even with attack plus, it's a bit iffy. This would give an option because it would actually, you know, fulfill the res part. And then you can run something like, say, Distinct Counter with Brazen Death Res, because he has the bulk to take a hit fairly easily. He does. And if anything, you can potentially just use a heal that doesn't heal for as much as other heals, to just heal him back up without pushing him out of Brazen range. The idea here is quite simple. His stat line is actually good enough to run triple Brazen. Now, this is something that not a whole lot of characters are able to do, but he is actually able to do it. And unlike Celica, which doesn't really gain a whole lot in doing it, Leif actually gains quite a bit. Again, keep in mind adaptability damage, had triple Brazen and an attack buff. This is an unmerged Leif. This is not attack plus. 21 attack with a buff, that's 75 attack. And because of the Brazen Attack Res, you can just run Brazen Attack Def, Brazen Attack Res. So as a result, you end up with 40 defense, counting the 30 def that I should have put there, and 37 res. Then with buff, that pushes him to 46 defense and 43 res. All the while having 44 speed because of a speed buff and 75 attack. Yeah. It actually becomes a lot more potent than it looks like at first. This refine is probably one of the most boring refine I've came up with, but make no mistake, it's actually quite a good refine for him. So, yeah. Moving on to Sothe. Now, Sothe is a bit weird. I honestly think it's the least interesting interesting one of the bunch. Sothe is a bit awkward. As a matter of fact, we're now getting to a point where most refines I can touch tend to be very awkward. The reason why I say this is because they don't have like a personal skill, or if they do, it's absolutely irrelevant. Looking at you, Sigbert. Sigbert, for example, I believe is if they're in a pair up and whatever unit that he's paired up with is a female and the female is in the lead, yeah, that's a ton of fucking restriction, you get 2 damage. Pair up is not exactly a thing, and even if it was, well, it would be limited to what, like Julia? Wait, is Julia our only female pair up? Oh god, I think that's actually the case. Well, you get the idea now, right? It doesn't really work. You can't really do something that really works with this too well. And that's the problem of quite a ton of unit at this point, and Sothe is one of them. So I decided to go out of my way and give him the same refine I gave to Sias, which is the same refine that then Ias gave to Saizo. The reason why I gave the same to him is because Saizo is the type of character that you will bring your own buffs to give to him, to a point that he actually does not need to rely on debuff for the first fight. And then with his own debuff, he actually pushed through afterward. And then you have Sothe, who's kind of in the middle. He doesn't really need buff, he doesn't really need debuff, but he kind of needs a bit of both. Sothe would be the type of unit you'd bring in a team comp that already has a bunch of debuff. Like for example, the Silky set I've shown in the banner review of Silk, where she had like a sabotage and 2 ploys. You could use this with like say loot and so on and so forth, and then abuse this, because then you actually bring your own buff to your team, so you would work more as a support unit rather than a damage dealing unit, while also being able to fight himself. But yeah, a bit boring, but at the same time, look at Peshkats. Look at what it does in Radiant Dawn. It's an S tier dagger that might as well just be in a silver dagger. There's nothing to it. It has a lot of might. That's it. Kinda really hard to work with, isn't it? I get it that for a dagger, 13 might is huge in Radiant Dawn. Like, I think a normal dagger is 4-6 might or something. But like, still no effect. It's really hard for me to do anything with this. Oh well. Anyway, let's move on to Barst. Now, Barst is an easy one. Ironically enough, I actually forgot that I had a refine I wanted to work on with him. There is a weapon that's based off of Barst, which is basically a killing axe with less crit. So I decided to just use that and rename it, because Barst's axe sounds very boring and generic. Which it is, because that's literally an axe any axe unit could wield anyway. So I decided to go a bit further with this. So I decided to just give it the Katria treatment, similar to what Katria got. Because triangle attack was a thing you could do with both Pala, Katria, and S, but also with Barst, Cord, and Board. So instead of making it based off of flyer unit, I based it off of infantry units. It's just a cool -1 weapon with the ability of quadding, essentially, or doubling / quadding, I guess, which actually makes full use of his stat line. Barst has a stat line of 33 attack and 32 speed, which is quite solid, honestly, for this character. Add to this 3 attack and 3 speed, that's 36 attack and 35 speed. Add to this a 16 might weapon, 52-35. Then buff, and you're at 58 attack and 41 speed. With the ability to quad. And with cooldown -1. So overall, quite a solid option for him, without being too, generic. And it only makes sense, honestly. It's really hard to do something else with Barst. Lumberjack makes sense because he's actually a lumberjack in 3. Do keep in mind though, the triangle attack is not a thing in FE 1, 3, or 11, it's only a thing in 12, for some reason. But yeah, which ironically enough I guess I could also do with Gwen. Since she does have a triangle attack with the other 2 armored unit nobody remembers. But yeah. Moving on to Garon. Garon is actually the one I wanted to work on more or less the most after realizing what I could do with it. This is very similar to what I did with Gareth, except I essentially decided to keep his niche and make it kind of like how Upheaval works in Echoes. Unlike how it works in Heroes, where it's just like, ooh, the first turn I do something, and then I'm useless forever. Yeah, that's kind of lame. But essentially what Breath of Blight would do here is, instead of at the start of turn 4 and then never again, because that's a garbage effect, I decided to make it an even turn. And before someone tells me, that's so broken! Sinmara would like to have a talk with you. Yes, it has more range, but it's also only all of the time. Sinmara is every turn, and it's 20 damage. That's ridiculous. Breath of Light is actually quite solid here and actually provides him some healing options, which also would work fairly well with Special Spiral. Special Spiral with Bonfire, for example, get hit, proc Bonfire. So your speed is not exactly that much of a problem, but even if it is, the first hit would lose 50% damage, and you'd have a guard effect as well. This is to give a highlight to Dragon Skin, which has a completely different icon in Fates compared to Awakening for some reason. So I decided to just make use of this and give that as the Refine itself. They do the same effect, but of course I wanted to do it in a more interesting manner. So I just decided to treat the fact that it offs damage taken as just 50% less damage on the first hit. Not on both, because, I mean, that's kind of broken. And reduce the effect of critical and offensive skills. I just moved that to guard instead. Made it a 50% HP threshold because 80% is very low and very hard to work with in general. And so this is what we got. So in most times you'll just basically take 50% damage off. With Special Spiral you'll proc Bonfire and typically kill them off because of the fact that the base effect will have taken their HP down a little. And if your HP is too low for guard to work out, you can just use Breath of Blight to heal yourself up on every second turn. It's a bit unwieldy, but this is a way to make the Breath of Blight work. And I'm actually quite happy with the way it ended up turning out to be. And with that said, I don't think there's anything else to say about this. Now, don't expect me to be working on the banner review or actually get it out tomorrow, but I'll be working on it. I'll try to do my best to get it out early, but I'd say the most likely candidate will be around Saturday. Or maybe Friday, because I think this is where we get the real exam for electric circuit verification. So I might come home a lot earlier, so I'll be able to work on the banner if that's the case. But as that is all I have to say, I hope this was fun for you all. And with that said, I'll see you all next time. Have a good night, everyone.